Good morning. Hi. I've got so many bells and whistles going on. First of all, glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace to people of goodwill. My name's Kevin Gregg. Welcome to the show that is designed to help you reflect, refresh, uh, rebuild, reinvigorate your life according to God's purpose and call for your life. So glad to have you here. As you may or may not be able to tell, I've got a brand new camera, and I'm making sure it's an HD Logitech camera. My son Mattie also has one too. It's an interesting thing. I let me know if you happen to be in the chats. And I'm so sorry. I just got all of this stuff out at the last second. I was trying to juggle so much gear. I don't know if you'll be joining me on the live stream this morning. If you are, that's amazing. You're more than welcome to, and come into the chat. Big shout out to Charity. She reached out to me yesterday. I always appreciate you reaching out and just being a part of this on a regular basis. The feed information for this went out so late. I don't know if she's going to be here or not. Who knows? But even if you're watching it later, thank you so much. I hope that I earn your subscription, your like today. And if you also like what you share, please share it with a friend and let them know about this show. The more that you like the show, and particularly hit that subscribe button, it just helps build and get the word out about the show. Couple of things that are on my mind and my heart today. I told you this the other day. See, here's the thing with HD. Just even as I'm looking at it right now, well, it's good, but boy, oh boy, HD television, isn't that something? I remember when HD cameras were first coming out, right? When they were first doing like HD streams, uh, uh, they did a thing at the Oscars, and like makeup artists were still trying to get it right. Like, how do we do this stuff um, for the Oscars? And I remember the first Oscars as they were walking down because they were doing it for like regular lower generation broadcast video cameras. They weren't used to what was going to happen on the HD things. And I remember particularly seeing several actresses that were just coming down the carpet, and they looked like orange with the makeup and all the stuff that they had on them, which was like they just looked so it looked harsh and unrealistic because that's what they were used to doing makeup for. Um, anyway, I feel a little bit like that. Can I adjust this? I'm trying to figure out how to. All right, we'll get it done. Completely different lens. I've still got to go through this stuff, but what the heck? We might as well experiment with it. I told you last time that I was planning on going to confession on Monday. I did, Sacrament of Reconciliation. I attend St. Charles Borromeo Church up here in Studio City. We've got a wonderful pastor, Father Jose. My wife, Kate, was able to go with me, and it was awesome. It was such a huge blessing, man. Like just being able to go and just being able to like talk to a priest and talk about the stuff that's just been going on. I've been dealing with a couple of things that have been on my heart lately, and just being able to talk about it, not just talking about it with another human being, but talking about it basically with inviting the presence of God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit in this moment where you're kind of just laying it all out there and you're just talking about the things that you're sorry about. Um, and man, it was just a very powerful confession. And our priest was amazing. He ended up he brought us to the side. He told my wife and I to go to the side. He ended up administering us, Holy Communion on the side. It was just like, how can you beat it? How can you beat it? Um, I think that's something that's just on my mind, especially uh, as a Catholic, right? Um, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and I got some really good fundamentals growing up. But it wasn't until I got into the later into my mid-20s that I really started understanding my relationship with Christ. And I ended up coming back to the Catholic Church. Like the church, well, it wasn't like I was gone, but I definitely fell into the category of not necessarily cultural Catholic. And what I mean by cultural Catholic is somebody that's been raised in that environment, um, and kind of goes through the motions and shows up at Mass and gets communion and does the sacraments, but they haven't really investigated what all of this really means. Um, and man, it's just super, super powerful. I actually just as I had gone to confession on Monday, there's another show that's out there, another podcast. You can find it here on YouTube. It's called Pints with Aquinas with Matt Fradd. Matt Fradd is an Australian, um, and he basically teaches Catholic theology, right? And he teaches it from the point of view of Thomas Aquinas, who was one of the great Catholic theologians, like going way back, philosopher, theologian, Thomas Aquinas. Um, and Matt Fradd, I've sort of dabbled in his stuff. I haven't done a deep dive on his stuff, but he's very good at unpacking certain Catholic teachings. He just had a guy. I'm going to look this up. Okay, that's his name. He just had a guy, and it just so happened that he had a guy that was on his show whose name was, is it Mattie? Huh, of course, the one time that I'm trying to look it up and I can't find it here. There it is. Mattie Harte. He just had a guy on his show called Mattie Harte, which I've watched part of the interview. But it turned out that he had a clip that came up on his show, which was like the elements of a good confession. I would highly recommend, and I'm going to put it in the description right after I record this, to go check out this episode with this guy, Mattie Harte. Mattie Harte is he's an Irishman. He's a guy that's from Northern Ireland, um, who's basically had a reawakening and a deeper understanding of his faith, particularly his faith as a Catholic. And oh my gosh, I mean, he just gave, in one of the little clips that I saw, he gave such a powerful thing about going to confession. He was in Fatima. Uh, oh boy, my geography's terrible today. Um, the area where Fatima happened, there was an apparition of Our Lady, of Mary, in the early 20th century. And there's been some pretty astounding miracles that happened. As a matter of fact, they made movies about this. I mean, it was like unbelievable. And this is a thing that's happened in like the last 100 years. And it's been, for the most part, it's just been kind of like pushed to the side. But there was major things that happened at this event, with Our Lady of Fatima, uh, that ended up like getting into major newspapers. Like it was huge, huge what happened. Um, anyway, he's in Fatima, and this guy has been sort of a, for lack of a better word, he's been kind of a cultural Catholic like all of his life. Just kind of, he'd been teaching in Catholic schools in Ireland, but uh, his own words kind of saying, I think that I've been teaching heresy this entire time, which is like, sometimes there's things that the church teaches in general. And it can be some hard teachings, but he was kind of going in and saying, well, I know that the church says this, but I think what you really ought to do is, and he'd been doing this for years. And anyway, he ended up going to a pilgrimage to Fatima, and he ended up getting like this real churning in his heart, this calling in his heart that he needed to get to confession. And he ended up going to a Dutch priest that spoke English in the area. And he had just like an intense, I think it was like a 45-minute confession with this priest. And he just ended up being with the right priest at the right time, because he describes it as like, it was almost like I was having my interview to get into heaven. It was almost like he's having this moment where the priest was not letting him off the hook with a lot of the things he was talking about, because he was basically talking about some stuff for like the last 20 years. He realized like, I haven't really talked about this. Like, I've done the technical things like, oh, I'm going to show up and I'm going to kind of talk about this. I'm going to kind of dance around this, and I'm still going to get my absolution at the end, which a lot of people do. Um, but he just had like such a powerful, powerful confession. And I'm not going to do it justice, like repeating it here, but holy smokes. I guess I just want to say this morning. Um, and again, I've talked about this in earlier episodes, like confession is a very good thing for the soul. And, I totally get this with other Christian denominations, that you have other ways that you approach this. Catholic Church is very specific with the sacrament of reconciliation, which is like, because a lot of people just kind of say, and again, I'm not going to do this justice. I would highly recommend, if you want deeper dives on the sacrament of reconciliation, please not only check out Matt Fradd, but also check out Father Mike Schmitz, who you'll find out on Ascension Productions. Anyway, look up Father Mike Schmitz, Schmiz. I totally blew that too. Maybe I'll put that in the description. Um, but check him out, because they do a really good deep dive on confession and reconciliation. Because the first thing is, a lot of people say, well, if I just confess my sins to God, and if I just say, Lord, I'm sorry, and then that's it, like that's sort of finished. Totally understand that. There's something beautiful that happens in the sacrament of reconciliation, which is that you're sort of going an extra step. Not only if you're doing a true deep confession, which is the idea that you're doing the reflection of it, but it's also the action, and also the action of showing up, and you're actually talking to another person. And you're not just talking to another person, you're talking to a priest who in that moment is representing and inviting Christ in. Like, it's a special blessing, like a special ordained situation where you're really pouring yourself out. And it's something, we all know it, right? It's one thing to have done stuff and to be sorry about it and have a side conversation with God. It's another thing when we actually open up our mouth and talk about it with another person, because it can be embarrassing, humiliating, can bring on great sorrow, right, with what we've done. I've had really, really good confessions, you know. Fortunately, I've had a couple of those earlier, and I've also had a version of this. It's not been a confession, but I've had this in the step process, in the 12-step process. There's a variation of this that happens when you're talking about um, uh, you're talking about the things where you've gotten it wrong, where you've hurt other people, and you actually take your time to you're sitting down, and you can talk to your sponsor. Some people actually do this with a priest, where they have their, one of their steps, which is about talking about it. Um, Step 5 is when you actually like go and talk to somebody physically about the stuff that you've done. There's something transformative that happens in stop having it just in your mind and then getting it out. And there can be a real sense of peace that comes over you. This Mattie Harte talks about the experience he had after he had this confession, like waves of sorrow, but then just having this unbelievable peace. I remember having this once. Excuse me. I uh, went to Blessed Sacrament Church, which is right in the heart of Hollywood. I remember once I went to a confession. It must have been like a Saturday. I think that they normally do them on Saturdays. And I remember going to confession and once talking about some stuff that was really weighing on me. And I remember coming out of the confessional, I remember just having like these waves of peace that were over me, and kneeling in that church and just kind of looking up. And it was just a glimpse of feeling the presence of God. And I remember I thought to myself, God, I don't want to leave here. Like, can I just stay here and just continue feeling this? Um, because I just wanted to stay in that moment of like peace and absolution, which is very it is literally, it is the peace that passeth all understanding. I mean, it truly is. um hey, can I suggest this? If you happen to be if you happen to be a Catholic, or if you happen to have been, baptized as a Catholic or whatever, and you've been away from the church for a long, long time, can I just suggest this because it's so healing, right? Um, I would make this suggestion. Maybe start taking a look around and seeing if there's masses that are in your area and just pop in at a mass. I'm not saying that you receive the Eucharist during the mass at all. You can always go up when you're in the middle of mass. And we really shouldn't be receiving Holy Communion when we're in a state of that we know that we're in a state of sin, when we know that we're in a state that we haven't made true reconciliation with God. You can go to this mass, check it out. When you can go up to communion, you can literally put your hands in front of you like this and ask for a blessing. Any priest will know what to do. They'll give you a blessing. But I would say look around at some masses when you get a chance and see if there's again, I'm going to say this and somebody's just going to go, "What are you talking about?" But if you've been away for a while, I would highly suggest to try and pop in a mass somewhere. And if there happens to be a priest that you happen to hear or see, or you kind of resonate with, and you kind of go, "Hey, I think I might want to make this step of trying to have a reconciliation with a priest." I'll tell you what you can do. You can actually call the church, and you can usually call the rectory or the office of the church, and just tell the secretary on the phone, "Hey, listen, I've been away for a while and I really feel like I need to have a confession with a priest." And you can, if you happen to know the name of the priest that was saying a mass or somebody that you go, "I'd like for this guy to be able to hear my priest," talk to the secretary at the church and say, "It's been years since I've done it and I need to do it. And particularly, I would like to do it with Father so and so." And like literally schedule off a time so that you can sit down with a priest. Because if you have a good priest that you're talking with, they'll talk you through the process. They'll talk you through the process because more than anything else, it is a healing process. And I just recommend it. Uh, Sometimes you just have to, because I get it, man. Like we've all been exposed to them. We've all been exposed to situations where we've had harsh circumstances or harsh priests or people that did something that upset us or anything like that. But, God's calling us to something that's bigger than that, And I know that this specifically speaks to my Catholic brothers and sisters that are out there, but I just wanted to put that out to you. Um, there's really something beautiful that can happen in the sacrament of reconciliation, especially when you were with, you know, an ordained priest that knows how to guide you through it, how to guide you through it. So another thing that I just want to point out about this Mattie Harte thing is again going back to this idea of culturally Catholic. He really unpacks stuff of what's been going on with the Catholic Church in Ireland, right? And boy, it's really insightful because it's not only insightful just about the Irish people, it's insightful, I think, about the state of the church that can exist in certain parts of the world, right? Um, I see this with a lot of the Latino community that's here in Los Angeles. You see a lot of people that get raised in different cultures. Can happen with the Filipino community, anything like that, right? But it happens with these cultures, particularly heavy Catholic cultures, right? Where what happened is that you have these areas or these countries or these sections of people that they they practice their faith because it was the thing that you did. You practice your faith because everybody around you was doing it. And also, like, that was sort of the authority in your area. And that's not to say that people did not abuse power, authority, all of that other stuff. It did. But the problem is that you had large swaths of people generationally that didn't fully understand their faith or why they understood it, right? They just did it because it was the thing that you did. And so that as we advanced, and especially as we got into, the new rounds of atheism that was out there with, uh, you know, because Matt Hardy puts it very well. It's like whenever you'd ask, if you would try to ask like a culturally Catholic person, well, why do we believe this? You just believe it because you believe it, and that's it. Stop talking, you know, like that's the answer that happens with cultural Catholics. Like people are just going, you don't ask questions, you just do it and be quiet, right? It's like, so how does that stand up, especially in the world of new atheism or any of that stuff that's out there that addresses really difficult, challenging questions, right? The problem, pain, scandals that happen in the church. How can you do this? How can you still believe this when, or people that are out there saying, what you're really believing in is just a fairy tale, or people that haven't done enough deep exploration with their faith, that it's very easy to, when somebody just comes, oh, that's just a made up story. That's actually not based on anything true. It's actually based on these things that happen. And all of a sudden you have people that are talking, about some stuff that they might have good footing on, but if you don't have the backing for it, you end up becoming susceptible for it. And it plants that little seed that makes you go, is it possible that these guys are right? We have to bring proper evaluation and thinking into what we are doing. We have to bring thought and reason into our faith as well. So anyway, please, I'm just going to put the link to this. I haven't watched the entire episode. I've seen a couple of clips from it, but boy, it was amazing. Amazing. Oh, gosh darn it. Let me do this. I was going to go into something else, but I'm not going to cover it today. I'll probably cover, you know what? I'll probably try to cover it top of show Friday morning. Yes, that's exactly what I'll do, because I was just having a conversation with someone. Again, I've been having these conversations with creatives that are in the middle of the entertainment industry, and they feel like they can't share their faith, or they also feel like that they have no other alternatives or venues for themselves. And I don't think that that's true. I really don't. I'm not going to do deep dive into this. I will save it for Friday morning. That'll actually be our discussion on the top of Friday morning. So thank you for seeing the show. Thank you for enjoying this high definition. I got to figure this out. I got to figure out different lighting. But anyway, we're trying to bump up the quality of these things as we go. Peace for you, everybody. Please, again, like, subscribe, share. If you subscribe to the show, it's super, super helpful, because this gets this in front of more eyes and ears. There you go. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye now.